Hey, so this is the Drunkalogs, a podcast about addiction and recovery in which each guest shares their version of how it was, what happened, and how it is now, and then endures a half-hour Q&A at the hands of your host, Nick Morton. My next guest is a writer, storyteller, and stand-up comic whose one-hour special, A Stumble in the Woods, is currently available on Amazon Prime. I was introduced to him by the Drunkalogs' official fairy godmother, Jackie Monahan, and he tells a story here that is so full of humor, perspective, self-awareness, and darkness, and is ultimately a story of the long journey towards surrender. Won't you please welcome Matt Gallagher. So yeah, how it was, what happened, how it is now.
Okay.
Matthew Gallagher, is that how we say it?
Yeah, Matt Gallagher.
Matt Gallagher.
Yeah, I've had to pick over 50 years. I just stuck with
You're
Matt
now
now.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm good with Matt.
You're 50 years old?
I'm 49.
Wow, you have no gray hair.
I know.
Lucky man.
I know. It was either great hair or great wealth.
Yeah, God, I figured like if I kept my hair, eventually I would get wealthy, but like...
No, it's yeah. My dad was the same way, but I bad teeth, great hair. Both sides of my family were Irish Catholic bar owners, so
right.
that, and I don't even like that because then everybody goes, "Yeah, I've got an excuse for everything." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, say no more.
Sure.
But it wasn't quite that simple. My dad was married with 5 girls. He had 5 daughters, and his wife died suddenly. And then a few years later, he married my mom. So we're from Atlantic City. My dad's family owned a bar called Gallagher's in South Philly, which was really famous. My mother's family owned a bar in Atlantic City called the Erin, which was really famous. Politicians, bar owners, and,
Seems like a match made in heaven.
And then there's 6 girls, because I had a sister born after me, but there's 6 girls and I'm the only boy.
Wow.
So I'm kind of like the prince of the world, but there's a lot of like you're the Gallagher kid. I'm the boy. Yeah. Everybody knew me, and my heroes were my uncles, like big red noses, brawlers.
How many uncles are there?
My dad was from a family of 8.
Right.
But one of his uncles died of alcoholism, lost the family bar. The one who ran the family bar in Philadelphia died of cirrhosis on the street.
Right. How old was he?
I don't know, 40.
Right. Yeah,
what I mean? Nobody talks about it. It's Irish. Nobody talked about anything, like emotional. Nobody talked about my dad's first wife who died. Even my sister's.
Right.
I mean, like that's...
How did she die?
Like undiagnosed heart condition.
Right.
I mean, it's a crazy story. Like my dad he got elected a politician. He got elected the youngest councilman in our town. And his wife didn't show up to the celebration.
Oh,
he went home and she was dead on the kitchen floor.
Jesus. That's terrible.
Yeah, my sisters never talked about it, and they, I wasn't allowed to talk. I didn't know about it. I found a newspaper clipping. I'm like, who's this lady? And they're like, it's Dad's first one. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, don't talk about it. I'm like, okay. It's like, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the world I was brought into, and it was great for me as far as I had a bunch of older sisters taking care of me. When I came of age, I was allowed to drink early.
Right.
My dad said, he goes like, hey man, I got 6 girls to worry about. You take care of yourself, basically. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
you got a good head on your shoulders.
Yeah.
You do anything wrong, take responsibility for it. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And
that's good advice.
Yeah, I was allowed to drink all the time. But
right.
They even said, like, it's safer if you drink in the basement. We had the pool table from my mom's bar.
Right.
In the like one of those gigantic bar pool tables, slate.
Right.
So people come over. They were allowed to drink in the basement. We had beer deliveries to the house. Like, there was always beer.
Yeah.
It's like, you were just better here. You know what I mean? There was always, like, So, I started drinking. It became my identity in high school. Like,
what was, like, your... was there, like, was there a night where you're like, it's on?
No, I got drunk early. Like, I passed out and gotten drunk.
How old? Like 12?
Yeah, early. I had a friend drowned. I had a friend drowned to death in 8th grade
from drinking.
And
in the ocean,
the bay.
Right.
He passed out and the tide came up and he drowned. And they called my house looking for him. And I was like, I don't know where he is. My parents said, he'll show up. And the next morning he showed up and he was dead. And I remember everyone saying at the funeral in 8th grade, Like, we're never going to drink again. People are doing these like pledges.
Right.
I'm never going to drink. I'm like, that's insane.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I did. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
You just don't drink by the bay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
never gonna drink by the bay again.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was already committed to it by then.
Right.
I think in 8th grade, I was already wearing like a totes rain hat because like my uncle Tom had like one of those like storyteller gin blossomy noses.
Yeah.
And he wore a totes rain hat. And everybody else wearing like, baseball caps.
Sure.
And I got like a totes hat.
Right.
Like I was all upset. I was like, all I need is a trench coat and a
you're
raspy
ready.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I wanted to look like William Beckett at 8. You know what I mean? I just
Totally.
like, "Grr, how do you get weathered look?"
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
it's so funny. I felt the same way. Like I wanted that like patina of decay.
Yeah.
Back when I was like 11.
I wanted to be.
It looked glamorous to me.
I've never wanted anything else. Like, I mean, I never had like grand dreams of like fancy cars and cool things. Like, I wanted to be somebody with their own seat at the end of the bar.
Norm.
Like, and when you walked in, like, you could hold court.
Totally.
Like, Matt, tell them the one about tell them the thing. Tell them how you met Sinatra. Yeah, it's like, like that. That's what I wanted from when I was a kid. Yeah. So, I started drinking. In high school, I was, I had all these older sisters too.
Right.
And they babysat me, which meant they had parties and I was there.
Right.
And so I learned how to shotgun beers. I learned how to do, beer bongs. I learned how to flip bottle caps by 8th grade.
Sure.
So, like, when you needed an identity in high school, and I wasn't, like, the handsome guy, I wasn't the best athlete, I wasn't tough.
Sure.
But I was, like, funny, and I could drink. And, like, I already knew all the drinking games.
Sure.
And I could hold my own. I was a blackout drinker from...
Sure.
What grade are you a freshman? 14? 14.
Yeah, 14.
Yeah, so I was blacking out pretty regularly from 14 on.
Right.
Yeah. And,
So then do you go to college?
yeah, I went to... I got it. I don't know why I went into engineering school. I got into, I took my SATs junior year with a kid, Brian Cavanaugh, another Irish kid, and we were both like hungover, but he was smart. He's really smart. But we took the SATs and I got a good enough score that I kind of made up for bad grades in high school.
Sure.
And so I got into Northeastern Engineering School. And the only reason I went into engineering school is because I had no idea. I didn't even know what engineering was.
I still am not sure.
Yeah. And so I had a brother-in-law, my sister's husband was graduated from engineering school. And I'm like, he's a cool guy.
Right.
And I'm like, I'll do engineering. Because I don't want to be a lawyer. I knew that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be a doctor. You know what I mean? So I was like, and if I stayed in the town, I'd work for the casinos. I grew up in Atlantic City.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll be an engineer.
Right.
And I had no idea how hard engineering was. So I go to Northeastern, and I had 13 alcohol violations in 3 months. At that time, I was too scared to tell my family, like, I want to go be in the arts.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, what an
are you fucking kidding me?
When I got older, and my dad got, older.
Right.
He was like, why would he, like, my dad had no idea that I thought it was going to be a problem. I thought I was making him proud. He goes, I didn't give a shit if you were an engineer.
Yeah. Be happy, dude.
He just, when I said I'd be an engineer, because engineers got good brains, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they're logical, like, more people should be on boards of companies that are engineers instead of lawyers. I'm like, my dad likes engineers. I should be an engineer. You know what I mean? Right. Meanwhile, my dad goes, I knew you weren't made out for this kind of stuff. Like, I always put all this, like, judgment that people and my parents had on me. Then when, like, I...
You come clean, they're like...
they're like,
no,
of course,
dude.
you're a goofball.
Yeah,
like, in a good way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I was in Northeastern.
Where is that? What?
Boston.
It's in Boston, right?
So I had the best fake ID, and I just, I'm in school. There's other kids that I met who were, and so a lot of kids from my high school. When I went to a Catholic high school that had crew,
right?
So there's like 8 kids from my high school were on scholarships to row. So I'm hanging around athletes who are, on the crew team, and they're all doing whatever the hell they do. But I'm like in engineering school, so I'm like. I fell behind immediately. Like, sure. You know what I mean? Like,
right out the gate.
Like
on your face.
Yeah, their final exam was what we were learning in the first day. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, I'm in business calculus. I'm like, what is it? I'm like, this was on the cover of the book. You know what I mean? This is like, I'm in like deep, calculus, and like no focus. And so I'm doing terrible. I'm dropping courses, and and I had more freedom at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd walk out of the shower with a beer.
Right.
And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, having a beer.
Right.
Like, and like rate me up. And I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Right.
And then, the next thing I passed out. I fell down a flight of stairs and I gave myself a concussion. But I came out on the wrong floor, right? So like I fall down a flight of stairs. And like I come back, I'm like blood everywhere. I'm like pounding on the door, but I'm on the wrong floor. So like so the girl opens the door, it's like, Gah! Right. And like next thing, so and I don't remember anything. And the cops like get me and all this stuff. And so they came to a head. Like when the cops called, like, you came to a woman's door, bloody and ripped shirt and all. And they're like, well, we were gonna review your thing, and it was like 13 alcohol violations. I was banned from 3 dorms, like in this part near the school.
Right.
And, I was doing bad in school at this point. And they're like, we're going to put you on. Like, it was like, they said something like, it's a 2nd level double probationary.
It's like right out of Animal
yeah,
House.
like there was like, yeah, double
really?
cigarette. And so they go, do you understand what we're saying? I'm like, and I said, like, I made that choice. I'm like, how do I withdraw from the school?
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, boom, see it. And
Right.
I left engineering school.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I went back to New Jersey.
Right.
And next I'm like I'm a guy who's drinking beer, painting houses.
Right.
I
Right.
fell off a house.
Right. The exact thing you feared you'd become.
Yeah.
There you were.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good deal. They honk the horn and at the van, wake you up at 7.
Right.
They already got
Easy.
beer in the cooler.
Right. Let's go.
If it's raining, you can drink all day. If it's
Right.
if it's sunny, you got to bang it out. 5 o'clock, they give you cash and you go
Right.
drink.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I was doing that. And some guy George McLean, another Irish kid, he was stuck in that town too. He goes, you want to go to Arizona?
Right.
I'm like, I guess. I'd never been west of Philadelphia.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I go, yeah, let's do it.
Philadelphia's pretty far west.
Yeah, it's an hour inland. Yeah. So, and I was like...
Up the river.
Yeah, it's like, I've snapped there. So I did. I moved to Arizona with him and this kid, Billy, who was, his plan was to go out there to get pot connections,
Right.
this back in the
Sure.
90s,
So, and your plan, you had no plan going out there.
No.
Right. You're
No.
just like
I'm
geographical, as they say.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Arizona because it's got to be
better.
Listen, I want to go nuts. And I knew that I needed to get away
Right.
from my family.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to be an embarrassment to my family. Everybody knew me. I mean, I was passing out in cars.
Right.
And people go, you the Gallagher kid? I'll give you a ride home. I mean, like, I was just passed out
Right.
in lawns.
Wow.
And people knew me.
Right.
So I wasn't doing myself any favors.
Yeah.
So I moved out there. And, yeah, within a month, I'd been in a motorcycle accident. I took painkillers for the first time. I'm like, these are great.
Right.
So, yeah, I got in a motorcycle accident. I'm working at a car wash. It was me and like 6 guys on work release.
Right.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? And so
Oh
they come out and I'm like 20 years old, 19 years old, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing?
You could do anything.
You could be
man.
doing anything. You're like, I'm just happy to be a part of the team. And they're like, you know what I mean? These guys are like, they're washing cars. Like, they're just like, they might as well just, if they had rings, they just scratch the cars. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, pff, pff. And I'm like, we got to get in there. You know what I mean? They're like, and it's 120 degrees. They're in jumpsuits and I get to wear regular clothes. So they're even more mad at me. You know what I mean? They're like, ugh. So, and then out of the blue, Billy, the guy who's like pot plans, didn't come to fruition as fast as he'd like, right? He gets a job as a bouncer at this nightclub. And literally, so he's like so East Coast, but the guy who was running, one of the managers, was from New Jersey.
Right.
And he goes, so you want to be a doorman? What do you do if you have a guest that is like disagreeable? And he goes, I reel back and I take out his knee. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and Kevin goes like, whoa. Like, you ever think of like talking? Because, oh yeah, if talking doesn't work. I meant if talking doesn't work. So he gets hired as a doorman, right? And then he goes, I got a friend here. And I go, yeah, I'm 21. Can I get a job at bartending? Because I did. I had actually had a crap bartending job when I was 20, which are 19 or 20. Somebody got me at a dive bar. The first time in my life where I went in to go to work and the bar had chains around the door, said failure to pay taxes, closed.
Right.
So now I had experience, right? So Kevin hires me and he's from New Jersey and he's like, you're from New Jersey? Yeah. And he hired me as a bar back, and this was like a nightclub in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right.
And it was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Sure.
Like, I'm like, come from New Jersey. Everybody wore flannels, guys, girls,
Right. Yeah.
everybody. You know what I mean? So now I'm working in a place with like, Scottsdale had like the second highest stripper per capita in the country.
I didn't know that.
And it's second highest divorce rate in the
Right.
country. So it's like all guys with money starting their life over with
Right.
girls who don't like to work real
Right.
hard,
Yeah.
But like, so I'm working in this nightclub, and there's just girls with like boob jobs, and there's tanning salon people
Sure.
and bedazzled stuff, like stuff I saw on like TV shows.
Right.
I'm like, people really dress like this?
Yeah.
Is that guy wearing a goddamn bolo tie? You know what I mean? Like, is
Right.
that gel? You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
yeah.
everybody I grew up with, like, flat top, flannel,
Totally.
boots. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And, now I'm working in a nightclub. Kevin and I become friends. He's, like, one of the owners of the club, and he's, like, the manager, and he's, like, older than me, but he's from New Jersey, and he trusts me.
Right.
So now I got, like, this running buddy
Right.
who's, like, knows all the girls. You know what I mean? He knows, like, pro athletes. It's Arizona, so there's all these athletes have spring training there.
Right.
And I'm drinking all the time, and I'm also like drinking and driving.
Right.
And at that time I wouldn't do coke.
Right.
Because I'm 20 years old. I had a couple cousins die of drugs.
Sure.
And in the middle of a shift, a bartender goes like this, and because I'm like, I don't know if it was a special night or what it was, but I'm like cleaning glasses, like in the well, like we're like slushing, and he goes like this with straw, he goes, suck, and like, or snort, and I go, and a big thing of coke up my nose, I'm like, woo, like, oh my God, and
Right.
it's like, that's great, this is great,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work the rest of the night, I'm not even like buzzed,
Right.
and that started it, like within months. I didn't hook up with, I had a roommate who was a bouncer, and his girlfriend was like an escort.
Right.
And they got into a fight, and she comes out, and she's like, do you party? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, come with me. And so we go in the bathroom, and she puts out like a big reel. I'm like, is this coke? She's like, sorta. And like, I do this thing, it was speed.
Sorta.
Yeah, sorta. It's white. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like,
That's a classic answer.
yeah. And so, and she's like, says, like, no, it's like I'm the idiot. And I felt like an idiot too, because she's like, no, it's tweak. I'm like, tweak.
Right. Right.
It's like, it's glass.
Yeah.
Peanut butter. Like all these names. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
learning it all as I go. Process this, because I can drink forever now,
Right.
And, that first night, I stayed up for like 18 hours.
Yeah.
Drank, I don't know, case and a half of beer
Right.
by myself, and tried to masturbate, couldn't try to pee, walked out, it was sunlight, like,
Right.
and I was like, I'm gonna do this forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've now found a way to drink without passing out,
Right.
and that became my life for like 7 years.
Yikes.
Yeah. And I hooked up. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what were you gonna say? You hooked up with
She
her?
she introduced me to a friend of hers who just came out of a bad relationship.
Right.
And so now I'm dating and sort of living with a girl who's part-time escort, stripper,
So
drug
weird.
dealer. Yeah.
Right.
With a daughter.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like 23. Yeah.
And so how does that go? 7 years of tweaking.
Yeah. It's just like
You in
gradual-
Arizona the whole time?
Yeah, I was in Arizona the whole time. Well, no, for 5 of the years. Then I eventually like bottomed out and then moved to California.
And what does the bottom out look like? You're just like, is there a moment where you're like, I gotta fucking make a change? Or is it just kind of like...
Well, like Kevin is like, I can't have you in the bar anymore.
Right.
You're like, it's, I can't hire you. You really shouldn't even be in here anymore.
And is he like, you should go to rehab?
Kevin was great. We're still friends to this day. He's
Right.
like, I think Good Will Hunting came out and he goes, Matt, like, if I come back to town or if I find you sitting on a bar stool in 5 years doing this stuff the same, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going
Right.
to beat the shit out of you.
And are you doing stand-up? Are you doing anything creative
No.
at this point?
I'm in and out of colleges. Like, I'm in ASU.
So you're kind of thinking you're still like a...
Yeah, I mean, I'm young enough and fit enough where it's like you can keep it together.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
25, you can drink all day and do speed and go to the gym, and you know what I mean. And it's like, you know what I mean. And people are like,
makes me nauseous listening.
I know,
to it.
like it was
But
a lot
yeah,
of
you
work.
can. No, it's
No,
true.
I mean, it was like-
I would drink a fucking liter of vodka and then I'd go run 5 miles the next day and I'd
Yeah.
be like, all right, let's do it again because
And
I can.
you're everybody. Is there's always a party going on.
Yeah, so you don't feel like you're
Yeah, like
this
you're-
like isolated loser. You're just like part of this.
You just
party
happen to be the
culture.
one who does it 7 days a week.
Yeah, and you're the
Yeah.
but there's also this like, I mean, it's like, sure, I'm the worst of the worst, but also I'm the best because I can. Like I'm the only one who's got like the stamina to like pull this shit together.
From the age of 25 to 38, anybody who got out of a relationship called me.
Right.
Everybody's going through, like, lost their job. Matt, what are you doing tonight?
Yeah.
Same stuff I always do.
Totally.
Want to come?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people would say to me, like, I can party like you. I'm like, I'm sure you can. Let's do it for 20 days in a row. Let's see how that looks on you. Yeah. People,
they're
2 days.
Dead. They're dead.
1 day, 2 days, they're all in. Totally. Like, this is
right.
Day 3, or you say like, what are you doing today? No, man, I gotta
rest. Right.
Yeah, I'm getting a new job.
Right.
I'm gonna call the old lady.
Yeah.
Like,
you're the cure.
yeah. Like, yeah. The grass is always greener. Like, Jesus Christ. Do you always shit confetti? Yeah. So it just went on. And yeah, you're like, there's normality in it within that.
Right.
Like, there was days where you're just like, what did you do today? I'm like, I watched all the Star Wars movies.
Right. Sure.
I was up for 2 days and, just, smoking and snorting a little bit and just drinking beer, like maintenance beer.
Yeah.
That was like a day off.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't like a nonstop party. And it's, you know how it is when it's not really a party. It's like what you have to do to not have the shakes.
Yeah. Totally.
Or else, like if the town dried up with speed, you'd put on like 8 pounds in 3 days. Like, you like just kind of sleep and eat pizza. You know what I mean? And just like,
right.
Like, God, like you don't wake up. Like,
right.
you kind of brush your teeth and fall asleep.
Right.
And it just went on. And like, you just kind of lower your bottom.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just like, you're hanging out with like darker, evil. It got to the point where like, I was driving for them and they were escorts. And I'd have to be, I'm like 145 pounds.
Right.
And
How
I'm
tall
like
are you?
5'10".
Right.
So I mean, I'm like, I would be like perfect shape for a welterweight. If you needed a welterweight, you couldn't fight. You know what I mean? So I was ripped. You know what I mean? Just totally malnourished.
Totally.
And I had hair down in the middle of my back, and I have a beeper. And they're like, if we beep you 911, like come in.
Right.
You got to rescue us.
Right.
And it never happened.
Right.
But like, I would have been the worst.
Right.
Like
what's
Navy
this guy
SEAL
gonna
team.
do?
Come in and tickle us. Yeah. He's hysterical. We totally diffused the situation with his comedy, But Kevin, so here's what happened then. I started performing in this improv group, sketch comedy group, I'm sorry. And I did that for like a year and I really liked that. And, but, I don't play well with others.
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? They were just...
And were they like, you're fucked up all the time? Like...
No.
Or no, they didn't mind.
It was just like, I wanted to do like edgier stuff, and half the crowd was at ASU was like Mormon. Right. Yeah. So you can't, like, I wanted to curse or make fun of the man and religion. Yeah. You're like, yeah, you got to tone it down. So anyway, I did that for a little bit. I got to perform in some plays for the first time. Like, I did stuff like that.
And you're a student at
I was a student at ASU. I got in but I wasn't doing great. Right, but I was doing it. I got to do some plays. I got to perform some sketch comedy. And then Kevin said, there's a stand-up comedy contest on the radio. You should do it. And I was like, and it was like the last day. And I wrote out like a 5-minute stand-up bit. And I recorded it on like a boombox. And sent it in. And I got picked. Wow. So I got to perform at the Improv in front of Judy Tenuta and like
here in LA?
No, in Arizona.
In Arizona.
So I did it, and it's my first time doing stand up, and I got like first runner up best comic in Phoenix. One of those stupid contests.
Right? Yeah, but still.
Yeah, like I lost to a Michael Jackson impersonator.
Desperately needed validation, I imagine.
But then I immediately was like, no, forget it.
Fuck that.
And then. So anyway, I was getting asked to leave Arizona State. I didn't do stuff right. You know what I mean? Like, I was not taking the right amount of classes. I took more student loans than I should. I partied a lot. Right. So I have to move to, I want to change. And that's when Kevin kind of told me, you got to do something with your life.
Yeah.
You know, you're funny. You're the funniest guy I know. You should go do something.
Yeah.
And Kevin had met an actor he's a big actor, not huge, but he's a well-known actor, who liked to hang out at his club, at his nightclub. Kevin owned a bar now, a different bar.
Yeah.
And so I go, how did you get into acting?
Right. And who is this? Can you say? Obviously not. You don't want to say.
I can say. I mean, his name is Dennis Haysbert, the guy.
Right. I know that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know him, but I know who he is.
Yeah, he's that Allstate guy. That's what everybody knows for other things. But it's like at the time he was shooting a movie in Arizona.
Right.
And he just looks over me, he's like, I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I'm like, sounds good. And I was like, sounds good. And so I looked up in the phone book or something. I didn't even know if we had computers then.
Right.
But like American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and they said they had auditions in Arizona this time during the year, and so I went. And I was, I remember like I stayed up all night, like starting these two monologues that I do. So I've been up all night.
Right.
And I went in there on fire.
And you are smoking to stay up all night?
Yeah.
Or,
Snorting, whatever I'm doing. Drinking just enough beer to be able to stay up to memorize Shakespeare. And then another monologue, a contemporary monologue. And I swear, I think the contemporary monologue I did, I don't know if this is true, but in my mind, it was the opening to Conan the Barbarian.
Right.
Between the times when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sun's Ares. That's how I remember it.
Right.
So, there's like a person there, like a traveling,
right.
artist evaluator, like behind a desk like this, like, would you like to start your contemporary monologue? And I'm like, yep. I was like throwing kicks and backspins. Like, I'm just like, I'm gonna go full. Yeah,
He's like, this is either fucking genius.
Exactly.
Like, this is the next fucking Andy Kaufman here, or like
no, it's like more like it is like Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper-y kind of like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like Dennis Hopper today.
Yeah.
And so they said we think you've got something. And so I moved. This is like the bizarreness. I moved to California to go to this school. I have no idea. I've never been to LA. And one of the actor's friends, assistants, goes, I know somebody who needs a house sitter in California if you got into that school.
Right.
She's going on location to shoot a movie. She's a costumer.
Right.
Well-known costumer. And she's got a house in Pasadena, and I think that's where the school is. I'm like, it is. It says Pasadena. Right. That's perfect. So next thing I went and I see this lady. I'm like, hi. And she's like, hi, I'm going to, shoot this movie for 8 months. She's got a Great Dane.
Right.
Like a huge Great Dane. And not that there's tiny ones, but I mean, it was huge. And like a 2-bedroom house in Pasadena.
Wow. And
the assistant that told me about the house also liked doing speed.
Right.
So I've got a house. I'm going to school part-time. I'm not paying any rent. I've got a 6-foot dog. And when I need to, or like have questions, like I call and somebody brings me over speed.
Right.
It was like bananas. And, but I kept it together. Like that was a part of my life where I kind of pulled out of like the tailspin.
Right. And you were like,
and I'm like, I'm acting. Yeah.
Right.
I'm doing acting.
Right. Yeah.
And, working out and, occasionally, partying, but like so much better than I was.
Right. Yeah.
Like this was like, like
normal.
Such good behavior.
Right.
Like I'm just a regular. He's doing speed 2-3 times a month.
Yeah.
He's just drinking 6 packs of beer while he's reading T.S. Eliot. Like he really growing
Felt
up
civilized.
here. Yeah. I got to feed this dog or it'll die. You know what I mean? And I did good. Like I did well. I done good. So yeah, I learned a lot. I studied. I got focused. I wasn't dating anybody. I was just doing my thing, and that worked out. And until it didn't, you know what I mean? Like the second year there, I got invited back to second year, and I remember like I was doing like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, like 9 a.m, and the teacher starts, stop it, hold on, and he comes up to me and goes, "Are you really drinking bourbon?" And I'm like, yep. He's like, it's 9 a.m. I'm like, shit. Just go home. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just decided to stay up all night to memorize the entire play.
Right.
Because in my head, I was crazy that way. I was like, why would I just memorize the scene?
Right.
When I can memorize the whole play and really be in it. And since I'm doing speed, I might as well drink bourbon like he does and walk around with crutches.
Sure.
So like that's how I would like get into things. Like I was going a little crazy that way. And people thought I was crazy, you know, as it was. And there were signs of me like really taking things to like weird levels. And so I kind of hit the apex of like being serious about acting there. Like in the second year, I was teaching the movement classes because I got in really good shape.
Right.
So I was getting a partial scholarship. I was drinking every night and I was doing speed on the weekends. And I got out of school. I graduated and I landed a pilot for MTV called Normal Joe. Uh-huh. And I was going to play the villain. They dyed my hair blonde. I looked like Billy Idol. I was like really ripped. And it was Sam Raimi's brother. Right. Ted Raimi. He was the producer of the show. He goes, you're going to be the next Bruce Campbell.
Wow. Like, how exciting.
I know. Like, I'm right out of school.
Right.
I did one play.
It's the dream.
Yeah. And I completely fucked it up.
Just shit the bed.
Yeah. Like, showed up to, like, well, the pilot didn't get picked up.
Right.
And I go into the agency where they were going to do me a favor to sign me.
Represent you.
And it was like Gold Marshak and Led Key. They used to have, like, you know, like, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. They were like, they still have a reputation as being like the great like kids agency.
Yeah. So, you know, I go in late and it's just full of self-doubt.
Sure.
And like, you know, the person in there is like got like, you know, is younger than me and has 2 managers with her and is like completely calm, probably like a Disney show, and I'm like this, and I've been up and the girls like you know, agents are full of shit anyway. Like, that's the other thing I've grown up. They're scared goofballs, right?
Sure.
So this girl's like, sorry if I'm a little slow. I was out partying at a festival, backstage passes. And I was like, oh, go fuck yourself.
Right.
Like, in my head, I went, oh, go fuck yourself. And you don't know how to party anyway. And I'm like, yeah, well, what? So when you get your head together, can we re-talk? Like, I said something arrogant. Right. And she's like, you know, this MTV show is like no money. Right. I'm doing you a favor. I'm like, I don't need any favors. Right. And I left, and they never called me back, and no one else called me. Right. So, like, you know, now I'm like, you know, it was fear. Yeah. If somebody had given me, at that point, like a $10,000 a week job, I would have died. Right. Because I almost killed myself delivering liquor for a liquor store. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't keep, $40 was like, here we go. Right. What are we going to do with this? Yeah. And I mean, I went
what's the strongest drug we can get with $40?
Yeah. I mean, I was delivering for a liquor store and a pharmacy, right? Right. So I have a show on MTV they're shooting. And in the morning, I'm sweeping up the parking lot. And I'm buying speed from the guy that works at the liquor store. And any money I get from tips for delivery, I like go back and I buy as much alcohol as I can get. And then and nobody's making eye contact with me. And then in like the afternoon, I go to like the studio, and the girls cutting my hair and the girls doing my makeup both ask if I'm single and if I want to go out. Right. And I'm like, 2 hours ago, people wouldn't make eye contact with me. Like, there was a woman in the parking lot, just like, oh, guy with the broom, you know? And so I just, it was just like such a weird disconnect. Yeah. And I definitely felt better. Like, I couldn't get my mind around shit at that time. And
how long did the show last? Was it just, you just shot the pilot?
Yeah, we just shot the pilot, and I had done a play that ran a little while. But when the pilot didn't go, the next thing you know, it's like 3-4 months, and I'm, you know, they didn't call back, and, you know, my hair's growing out. Like, they dyed it blonde, and so now it's half black, half blonde, and I'm a delivery guy still for a liquor store and a pharmacy, and the people who sold speed told them that I was cut off because I was, like, they were like, he's getting dangerous. Like, right. You know, I mean, there was probably a chance that, like, I would have crashed the delivery car. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I did. I got a DUI. Right. And I spent like 3 days in county jail.
Where?
Kevin from Arizona had tickets to the opening of the Staples Center for Springsteen. Right. And he was running another big bar in San Diego, so he had a luxury box. Right. He's like, you want to go? I'm going to be in LA. Yeah. So now I go from like, I got nothing, and now I'm in a luxury box to hear Springsteen open the Staples Center. Right. Free booze, and show ends. I get in my car. I drive 25 feet. I got one hand over my eye, and a cop car goes beep next to me, and I'm like, "Hey!" And I blew 3.5 times the legal limit. Woo. Yeah, it was like 2.
And where? I mean, what jail did you go to?
Downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah, I was in the towers.
That fucking.
It was scary.
Yeah.
Oh, you know when you're like, the one thing I learned is like I was in there and I'm like, you just felt like I deserve this. Somebody kill me.
Right. Sure. This is what I've been coming all along.
So I'm in the drunk tank and someone takes a shit in the metal toilet, and like this big African American guy goes, "Dump and flush, motherfucker! Dump and flush!" Like just he went from a dead sleep to jumping up and like whatever was left in that guy's body, he immediately shit out. Totally. But I was like, cause that's a rule. Like if you're gonna crap in there, you flush it immediately so it doesn't stink out the cell. But what I heard was, I will never shit again. Yeah. Whatever.
Totally, like,
whatever I got at the luxury bar, like had reformed in my belly now. You know what I mean? Like, so I just sat there constipated now, and I went from there, and I'm like, people bail me out, and that's when you realize where you're at in your addiction,
right?
Because I made my phone call, no one came. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I go from the drunk tank. They process me through. Next thing you know, I'm in a. I'm handcuffed in the orange ankles and arms to like a chain of 6 people. I'm in the towers. I'm appearing before the judge. So I'm 3 days in jail, and here's the thing. I got out and I had like $12, and this is how you know you're an alcoholic. So I said, drive me $8 worth towards where I live, but I need $4 to get some 40s.
Right.
And the other thing I got lucky for, a miracle, I had a joint in my wallet, but for some reason, for the liquor store I worked at, I grabbed these like those bamboo colored rolling papers.
Yeah.
So it was the same exact color as my wallet. So when they checked my wallet, no one saw it. Like if I had gotten possession too, I would have like really been fucked.
Yeah.
But like I ran out of speed earlier that day, so I had no speed on me. And the joint that I had, they didn't notice in my wallet.
Wow.
So I get out, I've got enough money to get me halfway home. I get 2 40s and I got a little joint and I walk the rest of the way.
Right.
And that was that's where I was at. And so now I have a DUI and I'm a delivery guy. And so I can't deliver anymore. And I show up to court. I drove to court because I didn't have any other way. I didn't know my way around. But I drank and did drugs before I went in. I was going to be my own defender. I'm like, I gotta get
my shit together.
Yeah, I need a little bump, and at least I have to stop the shakes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna drink a little, and I went in, and they threw the book at me. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got max everything here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Failed because I blew the breathalyzer once. I wouldn't do it again, and they wouldn't let them give me needle. I said I was scared of needles.
Right.
So for failure to do that, you get max. But then they also, which they weren't allowed to do, they also accepted my initial rating, which was 0.288, which is so excessive beyond that they give you max everything. So, what
does that look like? What is the max like?
It was like loss of license for like 3 years, 5 years probation, like time served, like $5,000 in penalties, like it was whatever the whole shebang is. So my response to that was, I'm going to keep driving. And I got a job with a friend making gourmet dog food in Hollywood.
Right.
At someone's house.
Right.
And this when Trader Joe's was first starting in the gourmet dog industry. It was like it sounded ridiculous.
Right.
Now there's restaurants on my corner. Yeah. There's fresh dog food restaurants on Fairfax and Santa Monica. It's called Just for Dogs.
Yes, I've seen that place.
I mean, you go in there and they make, they wear chef hats. But at the time, this girl's like, no, we're making gourmet dog biscuits and they're going to be sold at Trader Joe's. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. And all I did was like drink beer, do bong hits, and put the labels on the bags in this girl's house. And, we'd pack them into boxes of 50.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I guess this is my life now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I could drive the back roads from where I lived, the side streets, which I think the back roads, it's like Romaine. I'm just driving down Romaine. Right. When you don't know LA, I'm like, there'll be no cops here.
Yeah.
I'm on Willoughby, So I'm at a garage sale. I'm not at a garage sale. The guy I work with, he there was a girl on the street that he had a thing for.
Right.
And even though his girlfriend was the boss.
Right.
But so we're walking to get beer, and this girl is having a garage sale.
Right.
And he's like, oh man, there's that girl. I love her. She's something about her. He's like, let's go over to the garage sale. I'm like, all right. So I go over to the garage sale, and this girl does not like this guy.
Right.
So she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. I'm with him. And she goes, you want a shot of tequila? I'm like, yep. She gives me a shot of tequila, and she's got all of her stuff lined out. And she was like an A&R in the music industry. And she goes, try this shirt on. I'm like, okay. She goes, it fits you perfect. Keep it. She's like, when are you done with this clown? And I'm like, I don't know. I finished day 3. She goes, come back over. And I'm like, okay. I moved to New York with her. She's like, what are you doing in LA? Come with me to New York. I'm in the record industry. So I moved to New York with her. And it didn't work out. And in 3 months, I was fired from a bartending job and I was in rehab.
Right.
Yeah, like that, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Where do you go to rehab?
Central New Jersey.
How do you get there?
I get fired because I can't hit a martini glass bartending.
Right.
I'm falling down drunk. I'm doing coke. There's a coke dealer who works at the restaurant I'm at, and I work a block away. Right. And this new girl I'm dating got me the job.
Right.
Who was great. Someone I met from Arizona who's now running a restaurant in New York.
Cool.
She hires me.
Right.
It's a great job, and I'm screwing it up.
Right.
So I get fired gloriously. Like they say, like, listen, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday lunches, we're going through a bottle of Kettle. And there's no Kettle on any of there's no Kettle rung in at all. Right. So we looked it up. And it's just happened to be the first bottle in the well.
Right. Yeah, you don't care.
Yeah, I'm drinking a bottle of Kettle a day. Right. At lunch. Right. Plus I'm drinking beer. Like when I'm doing beer, me and this other guy, we used to get like big pints of Stella and put it in the ice bucket. And just go like this while we're cleaning glasses and just like sit there and sip Stella. Right. I mean, hammered. Right. Hammered. Oh. So I get fired, and like, you know, a couple times like they would send me home. They were super sweet to me. They gave me every chance in the world. Yeah. Like one of the girls said, like, he's got coke hanging out of his nose because I was buying crack and I was breaking it with a steak knife and snorting it in the wine room. Right. So sometimes I'd have like coke big snowballs. Chunk, right? Yeah. And so but they gave me every chance and they fired me, and I bottomed out in New York, like, which is easy to do when there's no reason to drive. There's 40 bars all night. I had a failed suicide attempt. And in one of these blackouts, I called my sister.
How did you try to kill yourself?
Tried to hang myself.
Jeez.
And all I did was, because I lived in a shit studio with like low ceilings. Right. So I jump off like a 4-inch thing I was standing on with my belt around the door jamb. Mm-hmm. And all I did was pull the door off the hinges. It was one of those, like, you know, one of those doors. So like
saddest suicide attempt ever.
So like I go like this, like I jump off and it goes kunk like that, and then clunk, and like so it hurt my neck, and then everything fell, and I'm on the ground with my closet door off the hinges, and I'm like, God damn, and like to this day, like there's still a part of my neck when I shave, I can see where the belt dug in. Oh, like there's like just a group of hairs that are pointing the wrong direction. Right. And I wore that belt for like 6 years as a reminder. My suicide belt. Like no one knew it, but I was like, it just had like the bar that goes in was just bent. And I was like, this is the belt I tried to hang myself with. Wow. But I called in a blackout, and the next thing you know, my sister and her husband are like on their way. They're like, we're on our way. Right. Like, okay. And I'm like, what? She's like, we got your room at a rehab. And I'm like, okay. And so I had like 6 beers there. I'm like, oh, somebody's coming and I need help. Like there was a lot of things. Like I couldn't pay rent. Like I was going to lose my like really cheap studio apartment in New York. My sister picks me up. She's like, we're here. And I'm like, finish my last beer. And she's like, they told us if you need to have a drink, you know, to get you there. Yeah, like that. And I'm like, okay, let's go to Rudy's. So Rudy's is this great dive bar on 44th, right?
44th and what?
9th.
Right, all right.
So they have free hot dogs. They're open at 10 a.m. and free peanuts. So I go in there and I have like a shot of Jack and a beer and it's a couple peanuts. Nice. So then we get in the car, we go through the tunnel and we're driving, and then I go, I think I need to stop again. So we're like somewhere in New Jersey, and I stop at a bowling alley. It's like 10 in the morning, 11 in the morning. And the bowling alley's closed, but the bar part of it's open. And they're doing $1 tall boys and $1 shots. So I have like 2 or 3 shots of Jack and 2 or 3 12, 14-ounce beers, whatever.
Is your sister in the bar with you?
Yeah, and my brother-in-law. They're like watching me. Like, you feeling okay? So I get in the car, like, I think I'm good. I say, I think I should just go home with you guys. They're like, no, we're going to keep going.
Right.
And so they drove me to the rehab, and I get to the rehab, and my whole family's there.
Oh, man.
My mom, my dad, my 5 sisters.
Jeez.
You know, I have 5 sisters.
Yeah.
And my, I think my cousin was there, who, first time I've ever heard the word AA,
Right.
I had a cousin with 17 years sobriety.
Wow.
And he's like, I'll be your sponsor.
Wow.
Yeah. So I go in there, and I get into it, but I go crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I did some weird stuff in there.
Did you have like detox issues?
Oh yeah, yeah. They put you on this stuff, Librium, you know.
Yeah.
And so it feels like you've been drinking tequila in the sun.
Right.
Like you just have no hand activity. And I had really high fatty liver enzymes. So like the beginning of cirrhosis at at 30.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Jeez.
And yeah. So and I'm bloated.
How long do they keep you on that?
It's like they taper you off like after it's like 3 to 5 days. It's
So,
alcohol withdrawal's quick.
Yeah, but do you feel the alcohol withdrawal? I mean, are you like puking sick kind of?
Well, you can't sleep and you're irritable, and the Librium, and they're giving you sleeping pills that weren't working for me. So I'm like running around the main area going, these sleeping pills are bullshit, and like doing jumping jacks, like in front of the nurses station there behind the glass, like laughing at me. And I'm like, whoop, and like just like putting on a show, like doing like the escalator guy walking behind the couch and like diving over things and like doing like 20 push-ups. Like, you can't do 20 push-ups if you take sleeping pills. I just did 20 push-ups. I'll do it again. You can think if you can't do sleeping pills, like, you're like, okay. So I find this teacher who was like kind of like a cross between Jerry Garcia and Dr. Wayne Dwyer. Like this really, like, he had guitar Fridays. Like, they play guitar and sing along, you know. But he was also like, he got that something was wrong with me. And he goes, Matt, some people get it through books and spiritual awakenings. Some people have to find another way. And, well, the thing that led to that, besides me being up, like not being able to sleep properly and being like kind of just wired out, there was a thunderstorm, and I ran out of the facility into the middle of this field, and I took my shirt off, and the lightning was going, and they were like, thought I was going to get struck by lightning, and I was just screaming at the clouds.
Right.
God! And I was like, bang, 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 bang. This is in central New Jersey. There's no buildings anywhere near this place. So if lightning was going to hit anything, it was going to hit me.
Right.
And so I walked back in, and a lot of it was like, I didn't want to listen to anybody anymore. Sure. Especially the people I was in the rehab with. Like, in my opinion, a lot of them were full of shit. Yeah. Degenerates. Like, whatever was going on, like, I just had it. Yeah. So they heard about this. They're like, what happened yesterday? Like, maybe you need... And I was like, they're like, you're lucky. And I was like, you're lucky. He's lucky. I was like pissed off at God. And so he tells me, he goes, I want to give you a pass to go off property, and I want you to go out into the woods. And I've told this story a couple times, other things. But like I walked down to the woods. Like I woke up, I was 6 a.m. I had the card. I'm like, I'm allowed to go off. And I walked out into the woods of New Jersey, and I walked for, I don't know how long. But like I sat down, and for the first time in my life, he's like, just sit, find a place to sit, close your eyes, and just breathe. Count your breaths. So I sat on a tree stump out there, and I closed my eyes, and I breathed, and I don't know how long, but I never in my life had closed my eyes and breathed. You know what I mean?
Sure. Why the fuck would you?
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's prayer? Like, prayer is when you like close your eyes and hope you don't get a hard on because you're thinking about a girl. I know, you know what I mean? So I did it, and I opened my eyes after a couple minutes, and like 10 feet in front of me, 15 feet maybe, is a wild turkey. Like, you ever seen a wild turkey?
Yeah, I have actually.
They're huge.
Yeah, they're big. Yeah.
And I'd never seen one before. And it was like, was staring at me, and it's this huge goddamn pelican looking thing. And it's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey! And then there was like rabbits, and it was in New Jersey. It was the month before September 11th. It was like July. So there's like all this dew all over the tree, and it was like 6, 7 in the morning. The sun was coming up. So the whole trees all looked like it was in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It's all covered in dew, and there's like spider webs, and there's these little butterflies, and there's little white things going around. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was like, holy
Right.
God. Like, and I ran back and I was like all excited. And I went into his office and I'm like, I was out there. There's turkey. There's real wild turkey. And there's a bunny rabbit. And I was like all like this. He's like, Matt, that stuff's always been there. You just never opened your eyes to look before. Like, and like literally he pointed out to me that I've been living in the dark at night for 12 years.
That's a fair point.
I hadn't been out during a morning sunrise unless I'd been up all night or, you know.
Right, at that point you're fucked out of
Yeah.
your mind anyway.
That was kind of the beginning of me taking it seriously, I guess. Like I had like an awakening. I was like, okay. So, you know, a couple days later, I told my cousin, I'm like, I think I'm ready to get out of here. He's like, nope.
Right.
You sign up for 28 days, you stay for 28 days. So I did that. And while I was in rehab, I get a call from a comedian who's now pretty well known, Jessica Curson. She's like, we saw your show at Gotham. You thought you were really great. And there's a new comedy club open and they're looking for new comedians. Would you be interested? And I'm like, I'm in rehab. When I get out, can I come? She's like, uh-huh. I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't even remember the set I did. But like I told you, I was trying to do comedy. But I remember being at Gotham and I was supposed to go on second and they bumped me till the end. And by the time I was in the end, I was in a blackout. And I don't remember what I said, but apparently I had a really good set.
Right.
So I come out of rehab and like, you know, like sometimes like life aligns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I get out of rehab. I go back to New York. I lived on 48th Street and there was a new comedy club opening up on 46th Street and they needed barkers.
Right.
And I found an AA meeting on 46th Street.
Right.
So my life became, and there was a clubhouse. So they had meetings all day. And it wasn't glamorous, but it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Go to a meeting, go to Times Square and bark. Go to a meeting, go to Times Square and bark. And you get free stage time.
And you get
and the owner of the club.
What was the club?
It was called Ha Comedy Club. It was owned by like a half a gangster from the Bronx. And they would pay me $2 a ticket for people I brought in.
Right.
So now I'm like
hustling.
And they started with 3 shows a night. And then he opened up a second floor. So there were 6 shows a night. And if it was a busy weekend, there were 7 shows.
Right.
I was doing 6, 7 shows a night.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And so I went from like, I should have been doing comedy to like, the next thing you know, I'm doing hundreds of shows a year.
Wow.
And I went from being like the barker to you wanted to pay me to be like a performer.
Paid regular.
And then I was paid to close shows. Right. So I'm closing 5, 6 shows a night.
Wow.
In Times Square, and then dropping in were like bigger comics and names. Like,
sure.
You know, it was still like it was a rough comedy club.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a rough comedy club. Like, you don't get any better than being in a rough.
Yeah, totally.
You know, you perform with a Times crowd bar audience.
You can make that audience
at
laugh.
1:30.
Yeah, you can make fucking anyone laugh. Yeah, you learn.
And so then I moved up the ranks. You know, next thing you know, I'm downtown. I'm performing at the old Boston Comedy Club, and I'm performing at Sal's Comedy Hall and in Caroline's, and you know,
amazing.
Yeah, so I just moved up the ranks, and you know, I went from like, you know, like barking to getting paid to, you know, my weekends were, I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I had 3. You know, in 2 different clubs, so I was doing 5, 6 shows a night every Friday and Saturday, and I got a restaurant gig in Greenwich Village, but I didn't have to work any of the big comedy nights.
Right.
So I was working like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday opening, so I'd get done at 9:30 or 10. Then I could go do the 10 o'clock shows in the Village, and then I was working lunches, and I was sober Friday, Saturday, and then Friday and Saturday nights I could perform.
Right.
So I had money in my pocket. I had this great like network of like what I always wanted, like actual tough Irish guys in Hell's Kitchen who were now sober. So I could I'm hanging around Teamsters and former gangsters. It was like my dream.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm doing comedy, and it was like the best. And yeah, I was doing everything I wanted to do, and
Did you stay sober?
Yeah, 7 years.
It's amazing. And look, we're running. I don't want to take your life up too much, but like, what happens when you relapse, is it bad?
It's a different kind of bad. It was like kind of pathetic. I moved out here and like all my fears kind of kicked in. I got passed at the Improv and the Laugh Factory, like right away. Right. I got recommended by some good comics, and I had good sets. I was
Right.
I was strong. Like I was ready. Like 7 years of doing like 350 shows a year.
You can fucking
I came out like I'm like boom.
do those crowds are
I'm like
friendly crowds.
Yeah, Hollywood crowd, and they're like you go up after somebody who's like
They want to laugh.
Yeah,
they've got money to spend. Like life is good.
And I'm like following people like not for nothing, but there's a difference between people who like doing comedy and people who are doing 300 shows a year.
Yeah,
and I was I was dialed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, put me up anywhere. Like before I came from New York, I had to go on between. I was at Caroline's. John Panette put me on a show. I went on between Jim Gaffigan and David Tell.
Right.
And I held my own.
Right.
Like, go ahead, put me up anywhere.
Yeah.
I came to LA. I was like, go fuck yourself. Put me up wherever you want. But I got passed. I didn't get the shows. Like I like they didn't like the world didn't open to me. They're like, get in line. There's been people here for 20 years. Start over again.
Yeah.
And then my wife's like, I want to have a baby, and the bills came, and we need a car.
Right.
And all like the next day, I'm like, so I went back to like the restaurant world.
Right.
And I wasn't performing.
Right.
And I was scared of being a father.
Yeah.
And she didn't get pregnant right away. I thought like I'm Irish. I should be able to get people pregnant on command.
Right.
You know, so it's like now like you got to pay for like medical tests, and you have to get like check your sperm or get her like enzymes checked. You want to do in vitro? Hey, here's some more out of pocket. Like
$12,000.
Yeah.
Per. Right.
Yeah. So next thing you know, it's like I work in a restaurant. I'm a manager. It's free alcohol.
Right.
I might as well take advantage of this.
Jeez.
So,
insidious.
Yeah. Next thing you know, it goes from me drinking free $200 bottles of wine to me now with a baby, drinking $2 Chuck.
And is your wife, how's your wife? Is she aware of the fact that you're drinking again? And is she bummed out about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But she never knew you when you were using, did she?
She did.
Oh.
We never dated when I was using. I knew her from my acting school days.
Right. Oh, wow.
And, she came to New York to do a play, and I was sober, and she's like, oh my gosh.
Right. Wow, you're like
Hi, Matt.
Different human.
Yeah. She came, she called me because she was in New York for a week. She wanted to have some fun.
Right.
And she ended up liking me.
Right.
And I was a gentleman.
Right.
And I cleaned up well. And we fell in love. And, and then I got scared. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I was like a comedian with a studio in New York with the world at my fingertips. Like I was moving up the ranks.
Right.
And
now I'm biting ass with a kid.
Yeah. Now I'm like, I'm like helping people select wines that are a week's paycheck, pretending like I know what I'm talking about. Like, is this $750 Quintessa is an excellent example. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so funny when you're making like $1,000 a week and you're holding a $750 bottle of wine and you have to pretend like this is such an excellent choice.
Right.
Like,
how long did you go out for?
It was a couple of years, but like just stumbling through it. Like, sorry, I'm gonna get back.
Right.
Like in and out of meetings.
You're in and out. You're not
30
really.
days.
Right.
Things. But it was just, if I wasn't drinking, it was white knuckling. And then with the baby, it was just like, I became like my worst nightmare. I became like a wino who like watch movies late at night with the volume all the way down, drinking 2 bottles of wine, and then be like waking up like, hey, I'm up.
How'd you pull out of that?
Here's what happened. One thing I don't like is folding baby clothes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but like baby clothes suck.
Yeah, but I've got two.
Yeah, but you remember when they were newborn, like folding all those little socks and stuff?
I was drinking then.
Yeah.
And like, I don't remember it that well.
So my wife went up to her mom's, probably to get away from me.
Right.
And I'm like, I got the day to myself. I'm not working.
Right.
I'm going to do this. Clean up the house because it's a mess. So I do all the laundry and I'm drinking wine. And now I have 2 kids.
Right.
So there's a ton of baby clothes.
Yeah.
And I do all the laundry. I'm getting hammered, drinking wine. And I black out and I end up peeing into the laundry baskets. So my wife comes home the next day. No. And I'm like, no, I wish it was more like dramatic. But I'm like, I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Like, I hate doing laundry.
Right.
I hate folding baby clothes.
Now you have to do it all again.
I have to do it all again. It's all me. So and she just like looked at me, and it was like that look where you're like, this isn't what I signed up for.
There's no way out of this.
Yeah. And I'm like, so I called the guy that I did steps worth in New York, and instead of going to like a meeting that I could make an excuses full of crap, I went to a meeting I heard that had like a lot of long-term sobriety, and I started counting days. Right. And that's the meeting I found my sponsor.
What meeting's that?
Moore Park.
Moore Park, yeah, sure.
Like 9 a.m. Moore Park.
Right.
A lot of double digits.
Yeah.
And I was like, instead of just like going to like get the heat off.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to get it again.
Get it real.
And so that's what I did. So like, I stumbled around for a few years, but that was the day I went over, hand up, first day, newcomer, blah, blah, blah. 3 meetings later, I'm like, will you be my sponsor? Yes.
And how long ago was that?
A little over 5 years ago.
Right. And how is it now? I mean, how do you feel?
It's
feel?
Great.
You're good?
Yeah, I mean, like, a couple years in, once my kids got,
Like once you're out of the shit a little bit,
Yeah, I started doing a storytelling show. Right. And it was started because kind of being like service. I had a friend move from New York who was going through some troubles. Her boyfriend had died. Her mother died. She wanted to perform. I said, I'll do storytelling. And I wanted to do one show. And we went to a place my friend told me about that, had a space. And I walked out of there and I'd agreed to do a show every week underneath this wine place. And it was great. So I went down there and we told stories for 8 months, and I got some good friends. Baron Vaughn did it, some cool people, Jerry Rocha, and Jess Wood is the one I did it with. And it opened up a whole new thing, and I ended up doing the Moth a couple times, and that was good.
And then you were telling me at the start of this that a version of this you did as an hour.
Oh yeah, and then like I said out loud, I'm like, if I'm going to do stand up again, I'm going to do it my way, and I want it to be as honest as possible.
Right.
And things just aligned. My wife put together a Kickstarter. It got funded in like 4 days. And the next thing you know, I went from like just wanting to film something in the back of a thing so I'd have it for posterity. Because I only had really one set of my older sets on film. And I kind of blew some opportunities to get, on shows. So I shot a special, and it was like you would never plan it. Like, I'm going to do an hour of material that I haven't done.
Ever done before.
But what I did is I kept it like this. I'm like, I want it to be as honest as possible. Yeah. So I told the story of how I became a drunk. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's on Amazon Prime. And
what's it called?
A Stumble in the Woods.
A Stumble in the Woods.
It was based off of because what happened, how that moment in the
Wild
woods,
turkey, and
also Bill Bryson's book, A Walk in the Woods, is like really kind of made me laugh, but it's also kind of like I felt like it was happening in my life. Yeah. Like, I'm a grown up now, I got to start figuring stuff out, and I'm still interested in the world like a kid. So all those things made sense. So I did it, and then the next thing you know, I'm performing again, and it was great. Like, I felt like I was 25 again. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'd given up the idea of trying to fit into any mold of like, you have to. This is what is hot right now in comedy.
This is how it works.
Yeah, you got to be on this kind of the edge. Like, that's all gone. There's either right now there's people who've been doing it a long time, and there's people who sound like they're copying someone who's been doing it a long time.
Right.
And most people are scared to say anything. Not that it's offensive or politically correct. They're just I just don't see anybody like breaking ground on, hey, I never thought of this before.
Right. There's a lot of crowd pleasing. A lot
of cleverness. But not a lot of deep stuff. So now I just kind of feel like I'll be the guy who nobody, like 2% of the people get.
Right.
Like, I read that book. I know what he's talking about.
Right.
I mean, I named my son Beowulf. Like, I'm a
What do you call him?
Bayo.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and Beowulf Shaw. You know what I mean? Like, so like,
And what's your other kid's name?
Lily Starshine.
Lily Starshine.
Yeah. So like I'm fine with being like kind of like like a goofball and like kind of obscure, and I still make people laugh. And,
sure, I laughed a lot this conversation.
Yeah, like it just makes life makes sense to me now. So
right. Cool.
I'm filming my first short at the end of in September.
Are you directing it?
No,
you're gonna act in it.
I may have it like a cameo. I wrote it, but it's like an all-woman cast. I'm the only guy. Right. It's great. Yeah,
it's just like your childhood.
Yeah, it is. That's right. Yeah, I feel more comfortable there.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, nobody's puffing out their chest at me there.
Well, Matt,
whatever.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Really cool. I really enjoyed hearing you.
I feel like I know myself better.
Me too. Hey, so if you've been enjoying this podcast, you can head over to my Patreon page and feel completely free to support the show with a modest contribution at www.patreon.com/thedrunkalogs. The Drunkalogs cover art is designed and created by John DeManil, and the Drunkalogs theme song is composed and performed by Stephen Stout. I am Nick Morton.